Good morning, everyone. Thank you or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started here in a few minutes. We're just going to give everybody time to get in. So depending on where you're coming from, again, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is Total and TrueTracts. We have with us Paul Rowe from True Footage. He'll be presenting TrueTracts. We also have Joel Baker, everyone's favorite from Total. So Joel, thank you for taking the time to spend with us today. We're going to give everybody just a few more minutes. We have a couple folks still coming in, but welcome and thank you for spending time with us today. This will be recorded. So if you can't stay the entire time, just know that this will be recorded. We'll be posting it on our site. You should also get an email from Zoom directly with the recording. So if you're on site, we know everybody's busy, just know you'll get a copy of the recording one way or another. So thank you for taking the time with us today. And I think we seem to be slowing down on folks popping in, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Julie Witt. I'm from True Footage. We have with us today Paul Rowe from True Footage. He'll be presenting TrueTracts. And we have Joel Baker from Total as well. So again, thank you all for taking the time to spend with us. We're really excited to show you what TrueTracts and Total can do together. If you have questions during the webinar, please, 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 there is a Q&A bubble at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure that you pop your question in there. We're going to try to answer as many of your questions as we can. So please feel free to pop that in there. You can take a look at questions other folks have asked, and maybe the answer's already in there as well. And we'll try to get to as many of those as we possibly can. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Paul and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. My name is Paul Rowe. I am an appraiser. I live just outside of Chicago, and I've been appraising for about 15 to 20 years. And we've been working on this software for quite a while now, and super excited to present it to you. So let's get started. So the agenda, we'll walk through some survey results, and we will then talk through kind of what the overall process is with TrueTracts. I'll then walk you guys through a live demo, and then we'll talk about pricing. And I have a promo code for you guys at the end of this meeting that I think it expires end of day Friday. So you guys want to stick around for that. Okay, survey. So we sent out a survey to our users, and we had over 300 people respond. And so we were super excited to see these results because I think it was 86% of people would highly refer TrueTracts to a friend. We're at least a 7 to 10 on that scale. And so there's a lot of people that are using the tool that have been super happy with it. Another question we ask is like categorize the ease of getting started using TrueTracts. And again, it was over 80% chose either very easy, neutral, or easy. And then the last one, how often are you using TrueTracts? I was excited to see this as well because we have, I think it's 65, 70% of people are using it on a daily basis. So it's really becoming part of their workflow. Okay, so when you use TrueTracts, one of the most important things that you're going to do is build a strong foundation at the very beginning of the process. So on our market definition tab, we provide you a way to define your market in a really data-driven way. We provide you this intuitive heat map that makes it easy to kind of see the differences in prices. This helps you build a large curated data set of competing properties. It also helps you know where to look for comps, and it's going to provide transparency into your process and support for your decision. So all of this goes into your report, and so the lender then knows that you've done this in a data-driven way, and it's completely transparent in how you did it. This step is extremely important because if you don't do this right, you don't have the good data set you need to get accurate time adjustments and accurate feature adjustments. And so we're super excited about the way that we've built this market definition tab. We'll go into that in more detail when I get into the demo. Once you've gathered that large curated data set, now we need to analyze it. And so we go to market analysis. And so if we're focusing right here on sale price trends, We're using a generalized additive model to plot adjusted sale prices instead of raw sale prices. So we're adjusting everything for differences, then plotting them on the line to give a much more accurate trend of what's going on. We're using pending sales to help increase visibility into the most recent trend. We're fitting a smooth trend line through that data. It's flexible, but it's not too wiggly where it's going to go way up, way down, way up, way down. Like you guys have seen using Spark or some other tools where you don't have enough data and it's just spiking all over the place. And then we apply those time adjustments to your grid automatically. There is a data cleanup and import integration with Spark. And so we now connected Spark to TrueTracts. So you simply click a button in TrueTracts, it opens up a session in Spark that's tied to that report, and you can do your comp cleanup really quickly and efficiently there. And by the way, when you subscribe to TrueTracts Pro, you get Spark, which is $69 a month, included at no additional cost. So you get it to use with TrueTracts, and if you're not using TrueTracts on that session, you can still use Spark independently. And then feature adjustments this is a big one. Super excited about this because we have 4 different methods to help you guys support your adjustments. We use GAM, that's kind of the big data market reaction modeling. We have peer adjustments. These are real world appraiser reconciled decisions. So these aren't, think about peer adjustments. When I first hear peer adjustments, I think of a lot of appraisers who are using the same $50 per square foot GLA adjustment that their mentor told them, that their mentor's mentor told that mentor, and it's just hand-me-down adjustments. And we see a lot of appraisers adjusting $50 a square foot, whether it's a $300,000 house or a $1 million house. This isn't that. This database is appraisers who are willing to pay for a software, Synapse, to support their adjustments. They're willing to learn it. These are the appraisers that really care about getting it right. And so this database we have of over 3.3 million adjustments nationwide are what we're using to help you guys with peer adjustments. We also have depreciated cost and sensitivity analysis, and we can get into more of those a little bit more later. We're not going to have time to go through this on the call. The idea with this, if you guys want to pause it and read it on your own on the recording, every method that we have has strengths and weaknesses. If we could give you guys just one method, excuse me, if we could pick just one method that works all the time, I promise you we would do that. There is no method that exists that works all the time. We're super excited about GAM because it considers all of the variables simultaneously. There's a lot of data science and math going on in the background behind GAM, but even GAM is not right all the time, and it will give you results that you don't like. But we've also provided a quick way to toggle that off and go, you know what? I don't like GAM on this one. Now you can choose from the other 3 methods. And then lastly, we have the reconciliation dashboard. So you define your market, you analyze the market, you pick your comps, you analyze those feature adjustments, and you pick your feature adjustments. So then you have this grid that has all these adjusted sale prices, and now you need to reconcile that into an opinion of value. We want to help you guys do that in a really data-driven way, and I think we have a really good approach here that we can go over a little bit later when we do the live demo. And then export. So then you get to export all of this stuff. And I think it might be worth it for me to just quickly show you what an export looks like. So when you're done with this process, all of this stuff either goes into your report or in your work file. And so you get a market analysis PDF that describes the entire process. It has all the filters that you applied on there. It's got the dynamic heat map, which you can set up how you want to print it. It's got the legend. More explanation. It talks about how we're doing everything in line with the Fannie Mae selling guide. We have our price trends go in the report, all the market analysis with the commentary. Top of page 1, top of page 2 gets filled out for you. With total, it's an easy integration. You hit export, it creates that TDCX file. All of this stuff goes right in and it will fill out your 1004 MC for you, fills out the commentary. All of this goes in your work file. So you have all the calculations that we did that go into your work file. Farm list, these are all the properties that you analyzed. So you have all of those in your work file. Adjustment analysis, we go over the process. We talk about the methods. All the charts go in. And then the value reconciliation. So all of that gets done when you get done with this process. This process is typically a 15 to 20 minute process to define the market, analyze the market, do your feature adjustments, clean up the data, and then reconcile into a opinion of value. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so let's do the demo. Okay, so we have a session. I already entered in the information here. So you're going to enter in some basic home features, the address, GLA, lot size, and so on. That's going to create this here. And what I want to do is I want to draw my initial boundaries, and that's going to create the heat map. So I'm going to do this. We want to apply filters to this. Oh, I should back up. Sorry. The tool, TrueTracts, knows we've loaded all of the sales in the market for the last 5 years. And so this has 5 years of sales and listings and pendings. So it has all of that data. It knows that already. And so when we draw those boundaries, now we need to apply some filters to those properties. Because when we analyze time adjustments and feature adjustments, you don't want to just grab every property in the area because you're going to have irrelevant sales that are going to create noise in the results. So you want to try and filter that down to competing properties. And so we've found an automated way to get you 90% of the way there. We apply some automated filters to these adjustments that 90% of the time you're good to go, but you're free to modify those. And so you just click into the box and you can modify these if you want to. You then click Create Heat Map. And this is kind of the magic behind the tool. I love this part. So what's happening in the background is we're training a statistical model on all of the sales that are located within those boundaries that I just drew and that lie within the filters that I just applied. It's learning about the relationship between features and sale price. It's taking what it learned and now it's going to try and predict the sale price of every black dot on the map. So every black dot just represents a sale that lies within the filters that we applied. So these are competing properties. And it's going to try and predict what did that sell for? Well, let's say it comes down here to this red area and it tries to predict these sales. Well, on average, let's say that it predicted based on the features, let's say that this sale here, 4 beds, 2 baths, 1,500 square feet. It predicts based on those features, it should have sold for 500. Well, if in reality it sold for 575, it sold for 15% higher than it should have based on what it learned from these properties up here. And so that tells us there's something else going on the model doesn't know where properties are selling for more. And so this is an area it's flagging this as you probably don't want to pick comps from here. And we don't want to include this data into our analysis, whether we're analyzing time adjustments or feature adjustments. However, when it came down to this area, it was able to predict these sale prices within 3%. And so if it was able to predict those within 3%, then we know that those are competing properties. They're competing on a feature basis because we've already determined that. We've applied the filters. And now we know it's competing on a price basis. So again, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, let's say 2,000 square foot home. That should be selling for 550 here. And when the model tried to predict those sale prices, it nailed it within 3%. When it's off by 3 to 6%, it becomes light green. When it's off by more than 6%, it becomes a shade of either blue or red. And so this is a really important process, setting the foundation, because not only did we gather the sales in here, these 266 sales over 5 years, but we just found another 1,700 sales to help us analyze. And remember, it's not going to include anything in red. It's not going to include anything in blue. It's only including these dark green areas where the model was able to predict those sale prices within 3%. And we have tested this rigorously. When you include these competing submarkets in your analysis, the model gets way more certain and accurate about what those adjustments should be. Okay, so now we have defined our market and we've gathered that curated large data set of properties which we need to analyze. And so let's analyze it for time. Let's look at days on market and that stuff now. And so what we're doing here is we are plotting all of those sales on the trend line. This is a 5-year trend to start. And we're adjusting those for differences. So if we did not adjust these with our GAM model first, these blue dots would be much more all over the place. Once you adjust them for the feature differences, they get a lot tighter around that line. And so you can see that here. You can see the run up during COVID, and then you can see the flexibility throughout. We're also including the pending sales. You can see those orange dots there. If I want to zoom in on 1 year, I can see the 1-year trend relatively stable. We've written the commentary for you. So based on 305 sales in the past 12 months and 17 pending and contingents. And so we've determined that market to be relatively stable. If you want to mark that declining because it's down 0.9%, simply change it to declining and it changes. Hover over these little eyes. These are little tooltips throughout the tool that are going to give you more insight into how we're calculating things or what we're thinking about when we put this into the tool. So in this case, anything less than a 2% change, we're going to default to stable year over year. Supply of housing. So you can see the supply trends, days on market. By the way, these all have a decision to be made at the end. These decisions end up checking a box for you in your 1004. And so in this case, we defaulted to in shortage. If you want to say that 3.8 months is in balance, you simply just change that and it will check that box on the top of page 1. You can also add any additional commentary you want to talk more about any of these charts. Days on market, final sale to list price ratio. So this is really cool. So we're in this market. We know on average that properties are selling for 1.3% less than they were last listed for. We can use that data to adjust all of these pending sales. So before we plot these pending sales on the graph, we're adjusting them down 1.7% to try to predict what they're going to sell for. And we also apply this ratio to the pending sales in your grid. You're free to change it, but you have really good support with a pending sale adjustment or a contingent sale adjustment to adjust it down 1.3% based on this chart. Active listings will apply this ratio. So this would be 2.2%, right? We don't know their last, if it's an active listing, we don't know because it's not under contract that that's the last list price. It may have other price drops. And so we want to look at a different ratio to extract that adjustment. Again, these charts go into your report, the adjustments get applied automatically, but you are in control. If you don't like 2.2% and you have a different method for adjusting your actives and pendings, you're free to change that. Distress sales, concessions, this just shows the percent of sales in the market that have concessions. This shows the average contribution percentage as a percentage of sale price. And then we have all the 1004MC stuff. Thank God this is going away. We spent way too much time building this out for you guys because we know you need it. But this 1004MC stuff will be going away with new UAD, but we have it available for you here. So this will fill all this out. You can either check these here or when you get to total, you can finish that analysis there. We have suggested commentary kind of throughout the tool. You're free to just quickly copy. And I recommend putting this in most of your reports and pasting. I'm not going to spend time reading it, but this is a really good comment that will help you guys out. Excuse me. Okay, so now at this point in the process, you're going to want to go get your comps. We're working on a comp recommendation tab that we are not releasing yet. We're still kind of working through some stuff there. But right now, you would go to your MLS and you just pick your comps how you normally do. I would suggest you use the heat map to help you. But what you do is you go and pick your comps. I'm not going to bore you guys and let you guys watch me do comp selection. So I've already pre-picked some comps. So I'm just going to upload those into Spark. And as you saw, I just clicked that button and it opened up this Spark session in a new tab for me. So I don't need to type in Spark and type in, it already knows it's a 1004. It knows the effective date and all that stuff for my TrueTracts session. So I'm just going to upload my comps, my subject. And for those of you who don't know Spark, please get to know Spark. It is an awesome efficiency tool that saves you 20 minutes per report. What it's doing here is it's highlighting everything in red where there's a discrepancy between MLS and public records. And you just click a button and it changes it. And then you get an export that goes into your work file that explains all of those different discrepancies. And there's tons of settings and stuff in here. I won't go through all of that now, but let's pretend I've cleaned these comps up. I'm going to hit export, click go. What this is telling me is open the updated session. It's taking these comps that I just had cleaned for me and it is loading those into TrueTracts. So when this opens up, the comps will be in a grid, and it's called the grid cleanup. And basically, all we want to do here is clean up the comps. There's certain things like Spark, you can't edit things in Spark. And so what we want to do here is any of the data that we don't like or we need to change, we can do that here. And so if if I look at this again and I talk to a realtor and I find out, oh no, this was 2,500 square feet, you want to change that here, because what we're going to do is this is going to help us with adjustments. We want all of the analytical fields filled out. You can also fill out all your other stuff. So maybe in this one you have a deck as well, and you can go through and you can fill those out. And by the way, we do have the functionality that Total has of F2. So if you want to hit F2, it will push that field across your report. You can also read realtor comments here if that'll help you determine cleaning it up. If you want to click into the comps, you can actually see the images. And so the images will load up here and you can actually go through and look at these if you need help does it have a patio? Does it have a deck? You can rate quality and condition here based on that if you want to. Okay, so let's pretend we've cleaned all this up. We're good with the data. We're going to now move to feature adjustments. So we are using 4 statistically independent methods to help you guys support your feature adjustments. It's really important to understand, like I said before, there is no one method that's perfect all the time. When we first released the tool, when we did feedback sessions, we had appraisers say, the tool was saying $83 for GLA, and I always adjust 40. That's nowhere near what it should be. I don't like it. I'm not using it. Like, I'm not using TrueTracts. And it's like, okay, well, if you didn't like this, did you look at peer adjustments? Did you like that? Did you like depreciated cost? What about sensitivity? And so there's these other methods that can be used as a fallback method when GAM gives you results that seem like they aren't credible. I do want to challenge you guys when you see the result from GAM to not fight the data. An appraiser who uses this tool all the time told me that, and I thought it made a lot of sense. But it's like, if the tool is really certain and GAM is certain about a certain adjustment of $83, and let's say that your gut tells you it should be 50, you might, this chart here is tied to this. And so you can see this relationship. The reason we chose GAM, one of the reasons is it's very interpretable. You can see exactly what that trend looks like. And so challenge your prior assumptions of what your adjustments should be. We've spoken with the GSEs about this. GSEs have spoken at conferences. In general, nothing specific, but in general, appraisers are adjusting too low for a lot of different features. I think that came in back in the day when they had the 10%, 15%, and 25% gross net single adjustment percentage rules. Those are gone. And the reason they got rid of those is they want to free you guys up. If it's a $150 GLA adjustment and you're used to 85, if you have the data to support it, you go with that higher number. Now, if it says $3,000 a square foot for GLA and you're used to 50, that doesn't mean you blindly trust the 3,000. But that's why we're giving you 3 methods so you can look at it a bunch of different ways. So GAM has the chart. What's happening over here? We're adjusting that entire data set for everything except for GLA. And then we're plotting it on the line and we're saying, okay, what is the impact of GLA on sale price? And then we take what's going on over here and we give it to you in a little graphic right here. And this green area is the supported adjustment range for GAM. Anywhere from $79 to $88. If you pick any number in there, you're really well supported. This green area, it is called the 90% credible interval. It just means that the model is 90% certain that the true adjustment lies between these 2 numbers. This certainty is illustrated with the green area on the chart. It's so certain because we have so much data back here, you can't even see green, but you could see a little bit of green shaded area right there. And why is that? It's because we're running out of data. We don't have a lot of data here. And so the model's going, I don't know. And so that's what the green area is. When you see a really tight range, the data is really clear as to what's going on, and it's an indication that maybe you should trust it. Okay, so we also have peer adjustments. So peer adjustments, again, over 3.3 million adjustments nationwide from users using Spark or using Synapse. And by the way, these aren't just Synapse users. We're only using the adjustments from appraisers who have used Synapse at least 50 times. Because what we didn't want to do was have people new to Synapse, maybe they didn't know how to use it correctly. We don't want that data muddying up the other data. And so these are only appraisers who are experts with Synapse that are using that tool. And so what this shows is the average appraiser in this market is adjusting at $85. Now, Pierre, the other thing we're doing is we have a complex algorithm in the background that's helping us find the right adjustments, right? You don't want, if I'm doing this house is somewhere between 450 and 550. I don't want to analyze adjustments from $1 million houses. And I also don't want to, this is in Phoenix or a suburb of Phoenix. I don't want to analyze adjustments from rural markets. And so the algorithm that we have to find these 100 adjustments that we found, in this case, we found 105, it considers population density, it considers sale prices, so price ranges, it considers location, all kinds of stuff. There's a bunch of different factors that go into finding these so that they're really relevant adjustments for this particular property. We also have depreciated cost, and then we have sensitivity analysis. So in this case, the range is 79 to 88, which actually falls within this range. And so you can see these are both highlighted in green. If I click this button, it will toggle off peer adjustments, or I can click it again, it toggles it on. Now 76 is in the range too, so I could actually toggle on depreciated cost. And so now I have this supported range of $66 to $100, 66 the low of this data set and the high. And so I can choose any number in here that I want. And so maybe I choose, in this case, 80 bucks a square foot. And what's really cool is because I have these three methods, I have three comments. And so the tool writes the commentary for you. We adjusted at $80 a square foot. We use depreciated cost, GAM, and peer adjustments. If I want to use sensitivity, I can toggle that on as well. And what sensitivity is telling me is sensitivity is indicating it's at this lower end of the range. And so maybe I knock this down to $79 because now I'm at the low end of here and I'm supported with all these other methods. Lot size, same scenario. Looks like GAM is aligning with what appraisers are doing. It's on the high end, so it's best guess estimate. This is the most likely adjustment, is $4.10. Looks like that's around the 75th percentile of what appraisers do. And so again, I have the option to do whatever I want based on that. Above grade bedrooms, all the comps have the same bedroom count, so we're not even displaying anything there. Bathrooms, I would look through this. It looks like it's aligning with all of these kind of methods, and sensitivity is telling me to be at the lower end. And so maybe I reconcile at 10,000. Age adjustments. Please don't use the age adjustments when you use condition adjustments. Those are two things that you want to do, one or the other. Age adjustments can be great when all the comps sold in the last or were built in the last 15 years because their actual age is probably really similar to their effective age. And so that's the important thing there. You can see here, as properties get older, they're depreciating, right? So this makes sense here. But this blue line, this is the oldest comp, the newest comp to the oldest comp. And this is the rate of change we care about. That's what's indicated here. But you can see how this levels off. Why is that? It's not that there isn't depreciation that happens after 20 years. It's that some of these homes start getting updated. And so then you see that in the data. And so this is super helpful if you use it for homes built in the last 15 years, but you don't want to do it here. It's better to just make a condition adjustment. So I would toggle that off and I would not do age on this report. Garage, very similar to the others. We can add in pier here. We could maybe reconcile at 12,000. Stories, they're all ranches, and then we got pool. Okay, let's speed up a little bit. We come down here. We also have the ability to add in adjustment support for any of these other features. So let's say that I have an ADU that I need to support an adjustment for. Traditionally, these are very hard to support adjustments in my market. But if I give it the information it needs, I give it the size of the ADU, the quality, the number of bathrooms, and the number of stories, we ping our cost provider and we give you a depreciated cost estimate for that adjustment. We're also providing you peer. So you can see in this market peer, they're all over the place, anywhere from 15 to 118,000. But with depreciated cost, we're able to zero in on, is this a high end big ADU or is this just a little ADU? And so we get a little more certainty around what that adjustment might be. Same thing for like, there's a different process for a deck. So if I add in the deck, again, we have pier up here if you want to toggle that on, but we also have depreciated cost. So you can hover over these and you can see small deck, medium deck, large deck, how big those are. So if you have a large deck that's around 1,200 square feet, above average quality, you click 8,500 and you have support for that adjustment. Okay, so now let's move on to reconciliation. So we've defined the market, we've analyzed for the fee for the time adjustments, we've got our comps, we've analyzed the feature adjustments and reconciled those. And so now we come to the grid. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but I want to help you guys walk through it. So right now we're in an analysis mode. If I click full grid view, that shows me every single row. The reason we created analysis mode is you don't care about the fee simple row. They're all the same, right? You don't care about the bedroom row. If they all have 4 bedrooms, you don't need to see that. And if none of them have a basement, you don't need to see that. And so you just click on analysis mode and all of those fields that you don't need to see go away. And so now as we walk through this, we are rating your comps for you on a similarity scale of 1 to 10. We're rating those based on the gross adjustment percentages. So you can see, for example, here, let me make a, by the way, if I change, let's say this is not very good quality. If I say this is a Q5, it will automatically put a depreciated cost adjustment there. You are free to then modify that. Let's see, I want it to be a huge adjustment though, because I want to make this comp really dissimilar. Okay, so this has 16.3% gross adjustments. It's given a 6 rating. Over here we have this comp, it's only got 2.9%, so it's given a 9 rating. You're free to change this. If you know something about this that's not based on the adjustments that are created and you say, no, this is a 7 for whatever reason, you're free to do that. The reason why the ratings are important is they help us determine the weight percentages in a data-driven way. If you do it how I used to do it because there wasn't a tool, you would give, comp 1 40%, comp 2 20%, comp 3 15%. And you were just kind of making those numbers up based on you eyeballing how similar those comps were. This gives you a really transparent data-driven approach that we are going to give to the underwriter to say, look, here's the process I went through to take this grid and turn it into an opinion of value. So once you're good with all of that, you can, again, we have all the realtor comments here. You might want to review these while you're reviewing quality and condition. You might want to click into a comp. Maybe one is adjusting a little bit high. And you're like, let me look at that again. I rated it for quality and condition before, but I want to give it another pass because this looks like it might be superior quality. And you go through here and you go, you know what? This is a little nicer than a Q4. I'm going to make that a Q4 plus. By the way, little tool tips. These are the new UAD rate quality and condition rating definitions. We just have built in. So if you need to review those. So I'll click Q4 plus. It's going to put that in. Maybe I don't feel good about that specific of an adjustment. I can modify that to 15,000. And maybe I want to comment on that. So I click on quality. It opens it up right here in the grid. It highlights the quality field and I can type in any additional information. We've written a starter comment for you. And so let's talk about what that looks like. The adjustment for quality was initially developed using depreciated cost. You saw that number go in there as a baseline estimate of contributory value. The adjustment was then tested and refined through sensitivity analysis in the grid to ensure it was supported by market data. A lot of buzzwords here. Those buzzwords are there, number one, to explain clearly what's going on, but also as revision prevention, right? Underwriters want to know that your adjustments represent contributory value. They want to know they're supported by market data. And so all of these in here are there to prevent you from getting a revision. If you want to put more info about that, you can certainly do that. You can say comp 3, blah, 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 or whatever you want to do there. And if you want to get out of that, you just click on the quality again, you go back out. Maybe you want to revisit GLA, but you don't want to go back to adjustments. So you click GLA, you're right back into the adjustment modal. We've highlighted GLA for you. And so you can focus right here on GLA and you can, this is live, so you can modify any of these things and it will make the changes for you live. So let me get back out of that. And as you can see, as I make these changes, this is updating. This is the supported value range. You know what, before I get to that, let me hit on a couple more things. We do have the thresholds, so you can set, I don't want an adjustment for anything less than 1,000 square feet, GLA less than 100 square feet. These are modifiable. You can change those to whatever you want. You might want to come down here on the map and take a quick peek to see if there's any external obsolescence. Maybe you see this is backing to a busy road, and so now you want to change that and make that busy road adjustment. Okay, so now let's say that you've set your grid. By the way, this is bold because any adjustment that you override or manually make becomes a bolded adjustment. And so if I change, if I throw in just 25,000, it's a bolded adjustment because it's a user overridden or user entered adjustment. It didn't come from the adjustment support methods. Okay, so now we're going to click on the supported value range. That's going to open up this reconciliation dashboard. So I'm going to walk you through what's happening. Once you get used to this, it's all done for you, and then you just go to the reconciliation and make the decision. So what's happening here is and this is going to go in your report, but we're presenting the similarity ratings of each of your comps. Based on these, we're able to calculate how much weight each comp should get. We take the weight percentage times their adjusted sale price. That gives us a weighted contribution. You then add up the weighted contributions and you get the most likely value. And so 483 is based on all of the numbers and all of the analysis you've done so far. That is statistically the most likely value. However, we know how real estate is, and the idea, we would all love to just provide a range of values. We can't do that yet for GSE work, but there are reasons why the most likely value is not the value you want to choose. There's a variety of those things. And I won't go through this now, but you guys should read this. This goes in, but it talks about there's a level of uncertainty around any value. It talks about, single point value is inherently uncertain because real estate markets are full of variability. And it talks about what that variability is, and how we're trying to solve that. And so what we've done to try and solve that is we create a statistical probability of what is the relative likelihood of any other value compared to the most likely value. And so if you have a tight grid, all your adjusted sale prices are really tight, you're going to have a really tight blue shaded area. If you have adjusted sale prices from $400,000 to $550,000, you're going to have a really wide blue area. This is being transparent about the level of certainty or uncertainty based on the analysis that was completed. And now you have the ability to reconcile this into a value. So if you feel good about the 482, you can choose that. If for whatever reason, let's say that this place has multiple offers. It went under contract in 2 days. It's got 4 offers, 2 of which are at 490. Well, you don't want to come in under contract if you have this support. And so you simply go in at 490. It puts that opinion of value there. You then come down here and you reconcile. Why did I come in at the higher end of the blue range? By the way, the red, these are kind of hard stops. This is your highest adjusted sale price and your lowest adjusted sale price. Obviously, you don't want to reconcile your opinion of value out there. But this blue shaded area, all of these values are at least 50% as likely to be the true value as this one. And so similar to the 90% credible interval that we're using for adjustments and for time adjustments, this gives you the freedom and the flexibility to choose any value within this blue shaded area, and you're supported. We also have the ability, you can open this up. You open up the grid in a new tab so that you can move it to another screen, and that way you can type all your reconciliation right here. When you're done with that, you proceed to the export tab. And we kind of already went through this tab, so we probably don't need to do it again. I'll quickly run through. So there's 3 main PDFs that will go into your report: market analysis, feature adjustments, and reconciliation. Then there's a bunch of fields that get filled out for you. And so let me run through those real quick. All of this stuff at the top of page 1 on a 1004 will get filled out. Housing price and age. Top of page 2 will get filled out. 1004 MC and the commentary. And then there's a bunch of stuff that goes into your work file as well. We already went over that. If you want these trends to go in your report and you want to see a 5-year trend, leave it there. If you forgot and you're like, oh, I wanted only 1 year, you just click that. It changes them all to 1 year. We are adding some settings in the future where if you just want to export market analysis or just feature adjustments or just reconciliation, you'll have the ability to do that as well. And so you simply just click the export button. It's going to generate a couple of files. It's going to generate a TDCX and then a digital work file. So this will take a second. And it looks like I'll probably be done in about 5 minutes. So we're going to have at least 15 minutes for questions at the end. So make sure you guys get your questions in, please. All right, the export's taking a while. Okay, so this, when you're using total, this is what you want. You click on this, it's going to download it. It goes right up here. I click that file. It's going to open up total. It's going to ask me, do I want to create a new report or do I want to merge it into an open report? I don't have any reports open, so I'll create a new report. But keep in mind, if you're going to merge this into an open report, you want this option checked most of the time. Keep the data in my open report, but merge everything else. What that means is if you've already spent some time filling out page 1 and you don't want TrueTracts to overwrite any of that information, you want to check this box because Total knows like, oh, I have a field here. And so I'm not going to overwrite that. I don't care what you're sending me from TrueTracts. I'm not going to overwrite something in this field. But if this field is blank, then yes, if you have information coming, put that in there. If you want to override everything, then you click the second option, which is replace all the data in my report with the imported data. And so this will open up a new report and it's going to put all of this information in. I'll quickly scroll through that and then we'll get to questions. Okay, so you can see this is a blank report because I started a new one. You can see all the stuff that gets filled out at the top of page 1. The boxes get checked. The data gets filled out here. Zoning came in, flood hazard stuff. These boxes were checked based on the information in total or in TrueTracts. The grid's been filled out. The adjustments have been applied. If I would have done the cost approach in Spark, that would have been filled out as well. More adjustments in grid, and then the 1004 or the PDFs all went in the report. And then in the work file, it has also populated all of that stuff. So the farm list, and if you guys are used to using Spark, the discrepancy report of the data comes in and all that stuff. So that all goes in. Let's go back to the slide. Okay, so just real quick to recap, we built a strong foundation by defining our market and curating and gathering that large data set. We then analyzed the market and got time adjustments. We imported our comps and got those cleaned up with Spark. We reconciled all the adjustments with confidence. We helped tell the story with dynamic auto-generated commentary. And then we closed the loop with smart reconciliation. Pricing. Okay, so current pricing. If you are using Spark and Synapse today, it's $99 a month. It's $69 for Spark, it's $30 for Synapse. You get comp cleaning, adjustment support, and market analysis. In TrueTracts, comp cleaning is the same. It's integrated, but there's really not nothing changed in Spark. Adjustment support, in my opinion, is way better than it was in Synapse. Market analysis is way better than it was in Synapse. We've added market definition and the ability to gather that curated data set. So you're not going to your MLS and doing what I did or other appraisers I've seen do, where they just go, give me every sale within 3 miles because I need a lot of data. That results in bad in noise in the data, and the adjustment support is not as good when you do that. And then we've added the reconciliation dashboard. The new price is the same. So still $99, but you get all this extra stuff. Coverage and support. So if you want to sign up, go to TrueTracts.com. We have help calls. So you can, in TrueTracts, if you click this little question mark and you click schedule a time, it's going to open up Calendly for Andrea. And you can simply find a time on any of these days that work, and you can pick that time. You'll get a link, and you'll have one of our experts on the call with you to help walk you through anything you're having trouble with. We have one-on-one sessions, which are, hey, I'm really new to this thing. And then we have other sessions, which are more, I'm an experienced user, but I'm having this problem for whatever reason, and they need help. We have our Facebook group, and then we have a promo code. So this is for new users who want a TrueTracts Pro subscription. You enter one total 20, and you get $20 off. This expires Friday at midnight. Okay, let's open it up to questions.
All right. Hey, Paul, we had a couple questions on, let's just kind of go back to the beginning. So if you can briefly cover SS, CS, and what are they? When do you use them? What are the differences?
I'm sorry, my speaker, for whatever reason, you are very not loud, and it's
Oh,
buzzing a little bit. Can you say that one more time? I need to like
sure.
lean in.
Can you hear me?
Barely, but I can.
Okay. So can you cover the SS, CS, and what are they? What are the differences? There seemed to be confusion around those different um,
Yes, great question. And that is a very common question. So SS is this golden black border. So what you're doing is here is you're picking an area that is all green. You want to make sure you have all green in this area. And this is typically where you're going to grab your comps from. Like in most assignments, right? You're doing this house here. You're going to get your comps hopefully from here. Maybe you got to go down here. But on typical properties, your comps are going to come from your SS. The SS is also used to train the data set to make this heat map. So when we make this heat map, you're telling the model, these are the properties I want to use. So these are properties within these boundaries that lie within the filters that I applied here. So these are competing properties in the subject's submarket. Then that model is then used to predict sale prices outside. Anything in dark green, this is where the model was able to predict these sale prices within 3%. These are considered properties that are in this CS, competing submarket. They may not be in the subject submarket, but they are competing with the subject. And the reason we think they're competing with the subject is they have similar features that are selling for similar prices. And so based on that, that's what these are. And so if I want to zoom out and toggle this on and off, you can see where those CS properties are coming from. This solves a really big problem I've seen over my last 4 years at True Footage, where in Spark, I'll talk about Spark because it's our tool, so I can. In Spark, we see appraisers with 13 sales over the last 12 months, and the time adjustment says it's up 25% year over year. And they're like, no way. And it's like, well, you don't have enough sales to determine a credible trend. You only have 13. So what if the most recent four just happen to be rehabs? Well, those are going to be selling for 20% more, not because the market's going up, because they're in better condition. And so what you need to solve that problem is you need more data, but you can't just go grab every sale within 5 miles, because then you're getting a lot of properties that are in dissimilar locations and all that. And so we've created this CS as a way to go, okay, we need more data to analyze, but we need it to be really relevant. How do we do that? Well, that's how we've done it. We've trained a model here. And where we can predict the sale price within 3%, we know those properties not only have the same features, but they're behaving similarly to the properties here. And so if you're a real estate agent and you're showing somebody properties here and they say they want a 4 bed, 2 bath, 2,000 square foot home, and there aren't any here, is it possible that they might say that there are some over here and there are some over here? And the reason we think those are similar, even these over here, which are further away, that 4 bed, 2 bath, 2,000 square foot home here is selling for the same price as the 4 bed, 2 bath, 2,000 square foot home here. And so this CS is extremely valuable when it comes to time adjustments and feature adjustments. Any other questions?
All right. Let's see. We had a couple questions about adjustments. One of them is, what adjustments are you making ahead of time? And I think this came up when you were in the heat map, maybe, Paul.
What adjustments am I making ahead of? I'm not making
What
any
adjustments? I
adjustments.
think the question is, what adjustments is the tool making ahead of time?
Got it. Oh, I bet it's on market analysis.
Hmm.
So whoever asked this, you could confirm, but we're adjusting these for features before plotting them on the line. This is a common question we get. How are we doing this? Um, Before we released feature adjustments, there was no way for you guys to see that. But if you want to know, like, how are you adjusting this sale right here? You just simply go to feature adjustments and GAM is going to tell you how we were adjusting it. So if I come over, hang on, it's loading. We were adjusting GLA at $83 a square foot. We're adjusting lot size at 410. We're adjusting bathrooms at 11.9. So these are the numbers that GAM has figured out that it's adjusting for those feature differences. By the way, I did forget to point this out, and this is really cool too. One of the awesome things about the GAM model, so if you think about Synapse, a lot of you guys are Synapse users. Synapse uses 6 different types of simple linear regression. They're all kind of looking at something from the same point of view. And in my opinion, it's a very flawed point of view because it's looking at it from the perspective of the entire difference in the sale price, the simple linear regression attributes the entire difference to GLA or lot size, whatever you're trying to solve for. It doesn't consider any of the other variables. Whereas the GAM model is looking at every single variable simultaneously to figure out that difference in sale price. How much of that's attributed to GLA? How much to lot size? How much to bedroom count? And so it's really trying to figure that out. The other really cool thing about it is it's able to show a nonlinear relationship. And so what does that mean for us in practice? It means you can see the law of diminishing returns. And look at this GLA. It is increasing at a certain rate here, but you can see as you come up here above 2,500 square feet, it's not increasing as much. And so if you had a comp out here, it would adjust it less than this rate back here. You simply toggle it to nonlinear, and you can see it's going to adjust the comps that are bigger at $82 a square foot, where the comps that are smaller at $96 a square foot. So you can really pull out the law of diminishing returns into your adjustments. Okay, what else?
Okay, there was a question about I assume the algorithms to TrueTracts are proprietary. How do we defend ourselves in litigation, regardless of whether it's in front of a state board or when we are an expert witness in a divorce, eminent domain, probate court, etc., when opposing counsel says, explain to me exactly how the algorithm works step by step?
Yeah, so I will. I'm trying to think if I answer that first or I do this first. Let me answer it first. So there are certain aspects of this that are proprietary, but because we give you the data set in that farm list, GAM is not something we created. The generalized additive model, it's not ours. It's not like you can't, if you wanted to learn R, that's a R Studio, I think it's a data science software statistical tool. You can build your GAM model and you can give it the farm list and retype all that data and put it in, and you can get this information. The way we display it is, our own creation of how to show the bell curve and stuff. But this chart and this $83, you should be able to get on your own. So there's nothing proprietary about the GAM model. The heat map, again, there's nothing, I guess there's nothing we're not disclosing about market definition and how we create the heat map. I'm explaining to you, I mean, we have a document, by the way, we have a white paper that goes through this in extreme detail. So if you're doing litigation work, I highly recommend you watch that or read that. But we go into detail about how there's a random forest model being trained and it's sampling the data and it's creating this model. Like all of that is available for you to read about. So I don't think that there's anything necessarily proprietary about this. And I think you can explain it all. And so the reason I pulled this up, if you ever have a question, this chatbot is an AI chatbot that's trained on 55 pages of TrueTracts information that we wrote. And so if I said, explain the GAM model in detail and why I should trust it, or you could ask it whatever, but it will hit that document and it will give you what is GAM, how it's considering all the features at the same time, what the output, what the red curve means, the blue line, how it's built into TrueTracts. So all this information is available. Just ask it questions. Ask it, how does it create the heat map? What's going on? Tell it. I wonder if you told it, hey, I'm concerned, I'm going into litigation and I'm concerned that, I don't understand a certain part of this. Please explain it to me. And I'm sure it would give you a great answer. Okay, what else?
Paul, we've had quite a few questions. I don't know if we have time to do an actual demo, but we've had quite a few questions about, can I use this in a rural market? How does TrueTracts do in a rural market? So do you want to at least kind of cover that and talk about in general terms?
Yeah, it would best be done in a demo for sure. And next time I do a demo, I'm gonna do a rural property because there are no dots over there for me to quickly show it. It works. So first of all, when you don't have as much data, I don't want to pretend that it's as good. But what I can tell you honestly is it's way better than not using TrueTracts. So if you think about appraising in a rural market, it's better than any alternative, but it's not as good as it is in an urban market. And so the only thing that you need to know, one of the main things you need to know in a rural market, let's try something here. If I'm out here, and this is probably pretty rural, I don't know this area, but it looks rural. If I'm out here, rather than drawing a little rectangle like this, I'm probably drawing a big rectangle because I want to get at least 100 properties to train the model. What's cool about rural is, number one, whether you're located an hour and a half from Phoenix or 2 hours from Phoenix, more than likely there's not really like a locational difference. And so the idea that I'm going to include the Rancho de las Calaveras properties with Whispering Ranch is probably not a bad thing. And so when you're doing rural, you just draw bigger boundaries and you relax your filters. So if you're doing a 2,000 square foot house, instead of 1,700 to 2,300, you might want to do 1,400 to 2,800 because you need to get that data. But this is still going to provide you way better support than not using TrueTracts at all. And I will make it by this time next week. I will have a demo of a rural property posted to our Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group. If you guys can find that and join, I will post a demo showing you guys how to do a rural property. What else?
Okay, trying to get through
Oh, I see
some.
Joel's face and he's talking. Are you on mute, Joel? Are you trying to talk to us?
Sorry about that. I didn't unmute myself. We've got some questions coming in specifically about using Total for mobile. And so obviously for those folks that use Total for mobile, you need to have the comp addresses in the report when you sync the file out into mobile. So I guess that one of the main questions here is, can you run TrueTracts again after you get back, you run it before you go out into the field, then you do the inspection, you come back with all the data for the subject property. Can you run it again, run TrueTracts a second time to narrow down your comps from say
Yeah.
8 to 5 or whatever? Does it work well in the cases like that?
Yeah, I think what I would recommend is doing the first two tabs before you go out. So I would define my market and then I would look at the time adjustments and stuff. So I would do that. I had this question from a guy who said I typically have, I think it was 15 comps or whatever that I have to enter. And I said, you could just type those in. Well, in total, I did a demo of this. Um, I don't know if it's gonna, I'm gonna do it now. I gotta add comps. It took me like a minute to add 15 properties. Rather than send them to Spark and send them back here and do the whole thing, I just simply like typed in addresses and you hit tab. Now, this is not, I don't know this market, but if I were in Glendale and I typed in this address and it was in Glendale, that would auto complete these two things. And then I hit tab and I do this one, tab, and then I tab. It takes like 3 seconds per comp. And so if you have 9 comps, you want to quickly get into total so you could upload it to the cloud and you can have it total for mobile. And then when you get back, you can do that rather than go to Spark, import them, go do adjustments, go do reconciliation, and now try and clean all that up and redo everything. Any other questions?
Do you want to just a couple people have asked this, Paul? So do you just want to quickly show people if you go back to the market definition tab, how they can turn the MC form off? Because we've had a couple questions about that.
The which form off?
The MC form.
Oh, yeah. So up here, modify property info. Include 1004 MC. So when you start your session, if you don't need it, just do that and it won't be there.
And then while you're in here, Paul, would you mind just clicking the form type drop down? I know a few users have asked, what forms can I use with TrueTracts? So these are the forms on screen right now that TrueTracts currently supports. We've had questions about 3.6. Yes, we plan to support that as well. The different form fillers have different timelines for when they'll support you importing that to their form, but we do plan to support 3.6. I know we got that question quite a few times. Let's see. Let me see what other questions we got. Oh, Paul, we got a couple questions on negative adjustments. What about the result of a negative adjustment value for a bathroom? I think that came up a couple people had that question.
Yeah. So if you get a negative adjustment for stories, then trust it because what we've found is there is in most markets there is a decrease in value going from 1 to 2 stories, and so you'll see a negative adjustment. If you get a negative adjustment for bathroom count, that would be a huge indication that something's going on, and I would not trust GAM. And so again, the process, if let's say that this said -9,000 to -14,000, all I'm going to do is that. I'm gonna go, I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. I'm gonna trust one or more of these and I move on. Like I know this demo took a while to go through, but when I'm doing these sessions, like I'm not spending much more than 5 minutes on adjustment support because I'm just going, where do these align? Click that, click that. I got my commentary, I reconcile it, I move on. This doesn't make sense because it's negative. Let's say that it said negative. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm just going to toggle it off. I'm going to go with peer and I'm going to move on. So it's okay to turn off GAM when it doesn't make sense. Not only is it okay, it's encouraged.
Paul, something else, it's a little slightly off topic, but I can't remember. Did you show folks how to check coverage? Because we're getting a lot of questions. Are you in this area? Do you want to just quickly show people they can check that?
Yeah, what would that be? That would be
Yeah, so
no.
truefootage.tech/, is probably what you're looking for.
Okay, so you go to coverage areas. Let's say I want to search in Illinois. I want to search Cook County. It's available. Or if I don't want to type in the county, I can just scroll through and see where it's available and where it's not. Dwayne Snyder and plus one other has their hand raised. It says, if you guys could unmute, you're free to unmute and talk. I don't know if, oh, he went away. Now just Christopher Vigil.
Let's see if I can unmute.
All right, Christopher, if you figure out your microphone, let us know. Do we have any other ones?
If I can find something you can answer real quick. Oh, when we say adjusted, meaning and I think this goes back to the first tab again, Paul. Are they adjusted to quality, condition, and price per square foot? So I think this is on the heat map.
Okay, so price per square foot is one of, so here's what it's adjusting for. It is adjusting for GLA, lot size, bedrooms, bathrooms, half baths, year built, garage, stories, and pool. So that's what's being adjusted when it's figuring this out. It does not know quality and condition, and it does not know view. And so, yet, by the way, I should have mentioned this already. So we signed a deal with RESTB, which RESTB is the leading AI company that rates quality and condition based on images. And so this in our entire data set of tens of millions of properties have quality and condition ratings assigned to them now. And so we are busy testing and rolling that out into the tool. So there's two benefits to that. Number one is it will remove omitted variable bias. There is omitted variable bias means what are the variables that affect value that we don't know and we can't account for? Quality and condition being two of the biggest. We're going to solve for those here soon. So that will help us understand that a little bit better. Based on our testing, the results aren't dramatically different, but a bathroom adjustment that says 20,000 today might say 15,000 after it knows quality and condition. So it is improving the model a little bit to know quality and condition, but just as importantly, it is going to give you the ability to use GAM to get a quality and a condition adjustment. And so that's something we've never had before. We're going to be able to analyze, in this case, 1,900 properties and give you like, oh, going from a Q3 to a Q4 is a $125,000 shift or whatever that is. And you'll have statistical support for that quality and condition adjustment. So coming soon, we're testing, hoping in the next month or so that will roll out. The other things I should say it doesn't know school district. Like we've asked, well, these are in a different school district. Well, when we train these models, we don't want it to know school district. We want it to completely in an unbiased way. You don't know school district, you don't know zip code, census tract, state lines, county lines. We want you to just figure out sale price and try and predict it just based on the facts. And when it's able to predict it within 3%, we know those are similar properties selling for similar prices. We don't care what school district they're in because they could be a great comp. Now, you as an appraiser, you can If you have two comps and one's in the same school district and one isn't, obviously you're going to choose the one in the same school district. But this gives you the ability to go outside of that school district and then understand that, okay, I'm in a different school district, but this is a very similar property selling for a similar price. We do have these overlays down here. So if you want to add city boundaries, you click on that and it will show you city boundaries. If you want to see county boundaries, it will do county boundaries as well. Okay, what else?
See. Paul, this is kind of a new one. We don't usually get this question, but there are a lot of questions, and my hands are getting tired from typing this answer. We're getting a lot of questions about, I have to pay for public records data. How does that work? Can you just quickly address how public records data is included in TrueTracts and that users aren't going out and having to look for it?
Yeah, I would want to know why you're paying for public records. I don't think that there's not a good reason, but I appraised for 15 to 20 years and we never paid for public records. Realist came with our MLS subscription. Um, so you should be able to get some aspect of public records through your MLS. I think most of them have that. But the way that it's being utilized with us is number one, it's being utilized in Spark. And so when I hover over these red areas, it's basically saying, hey, public records says that for this field there's a covered patio, and MLS just says there's a patio. And so you can choose. It does the same thing with GLA, garages, everything else. And so that's how public records is integrated here. It's also integrated in Spark with prior transfer history. So it's going to find the prior transfer history for these properties and it puts it into your report as well. It'll fill out the fields underneath the grid and it will also put in the commentary that you need about those prior sales. And so that's public records. Then in TrueTracts, we're using a combination of public records and MLS data. Like if we know in a specific MLS we don't get good lot size data from the MLS, but we get it from public records, it's pinging public records for that instead of the MLS.
I can add a little context here, Paul. There are some places, some counties where the assessor uh, has a fee for each of the property record cards, the individual data points that they levy against the appraiser when they do a lookup. It's not often, but they're there. And just generally, appraisers, the data aggregators like CoreLogic and excuse me, Cotality. When we what we do is which by the way, Realist is a Cotality product. So for those of you that have, like Paul mentioned, the Realist built into the matrix systems, that's one of the benefits there. We've paid the fees that the county charges for that data, and they send it on the back end. We get like an Excel file basically from the counties and have to extract all that data rather than looking at the individual property record cards. So it is a giant data aggregation from the county. So still is essentially the same data set. It just doesn't come from the property record cards individually, like how appraisers sometimes use it.
Yeah, so I guess if you wanted the level of granularity and you said, I want to see specifically, I guess this is showing you that though, because this is basically 1913 is public records because if it wasn't, it would be red. Like this is red because there's a difference between these two. And I don't even know, I don't know if we're using Realist or Data Tree or something on the back end, but I guess I would want to understand how you're using it, the person who asked the question, because if you're just using it to find out what does public records say about lot size, GLA, and these features, and you only need it for your comps, you're going to see that when you upload those to Spark. If you're using it to dive deeper into stuff that I'm not thinking of right now, then you may still need it. Anything else?
Geospatially, Paul, we've got a question about how TrueTracts gets its location. Is that from the MLS or does it get replotted from, say, Google or somewhere else?
I think we're using two different sources. So if you're doing new construction and you type this in and it doesn't find it, you can click this. And so this is Google, right? I remember them saying there's two, and it pings one of the sources, and that also gives you a confidence score. And if the confidence score is a certain level, it just uses that. If the confidence score is not at a certain level, then it switches to Google or vice versa. One of them is more expensive than the other, I think. So I think there's a tree of two sources to try and find location. But that I'm guessing at that based on what I've heard from the engineers. I'm not an expert on that. But if you're doing new construction and it plots it somewhere that you don't think it should be, you can change it here, and it'll put the lat long in there.
Thomas is saying, in my MLS, the realtors don't have to differentiate between above grade and below grade. Well, since Thomas, since the GSEs don't even want the term basement anymore as of August 8th, it's above grade and below grade. And the MLSs need to get on board. You all need to, I guess, email them and educate them. Send them the what Fannie and Freddie are requiring, which is above grade and below grade. That's prior to even UAD 3.6. That's the new standard is above grade and below grade. MLSs need to add that.
Is that a question for me?
I'm sorry, no, that wasn't. I'm I just wanted to needle Thomas and say, hey man, call your MLS and tell them that basement's no longer a thing for the GSEs.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I know in the new UAD there's some stuff with above and below that's different, but I didn't know that they told us to not use basements today. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
it was they changed that starting August 8th. They don't want GLA and they don't want basement. I know they haven't changed the form, but that's even on the 2.6 stuff.
You're saying they don't want you to call it GLA.
They don't want you to call it GLA or think about it in terms of GLA. They don't want you to call it basement or think about it in terms of basement. Even though it says basement on the form and GLA on the form, they want you to categorize. They want appraisers to categorize above grade and below grade, finished and unfinished.
Got it.
Yeah. And they did that at the same time that they removed the exception code for berm homes. Can't use that anymore either.
I'm a city appraiser. I don't know anything about berm homes. Thank God.
This has been a good group. Chris is asking a question, Paul. What is the range area that is used for the top of page 2? 1 mile, 2 mile, or is it the SS?
It's the SS. Yeah, that's specific to Fannie and Freddie. That's how they want us to do it. They want it to be your neighborhood, which is the neighborhood's going away as well. They want to refer to it as market area. But if you have any questions on top of page 2, right here, notes, this is completed using competing properties from the neighborhood data set with the filters you applied, ensuring this represents comparable sales and listings. Reminder, if you didn't define neighborhood, then the boundaries default to your SS. The only reason you define neighborhood, it's too complicated to get into, but if you want your 1004 MC filled out only on this subset of your SS, you can do that. We give you the ability to do that, but it's not necessarily recommended. I just saw this question from James. How does the system know the quality rating when using depreciated cost method? I think that's a good question. Some of these questions you can tell somebody gets it, you know? So up front, I'm telling the tool, I'm rating quality and condition for the subject. And so for things like GLA, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, you have a 4 bed, 2 bath, 1 story, 2,000 square foot home that is in C4 condition and is a Q4 quality home. To build that, it would cost X. And this comp has these features and this quality and this condition, and then it figures out like what is the difference in that cost to build for GLA or bathroom or whatever. And so that's what's going on. It's basically converting, if you say it's a C4, that probably has an effective age on the back end of like a 20 to 25-year-old home. And so you're able to, if the economic life is 60 years, let's say for simple math, a C4 minus is 30 years effective age. That means that home's going to get depreciated 50%. And so that's the depreciated part of the cost that's happening in the background.
Paul, I'm seeing this question a couple different times. People are wondering about if two MLSs cover my area. Is it going to have the data for both? Do you want to take that or do you want me to answer that?
That one's all you.
Okay, so and we got this quite a few times, so I'm going to try to cover it broadly. So, for TrueTracts, if there are two MLSs covering an area, first of all, TrueTracts is only going to, we're only going to cover that area if we have a high enough percentage of the data. So if two MLSs cover an area, for example, cover a county and one covers 50%, the other covers 50%, and we only have data from one of the MLSs, in all likelihood, we just don't cover that county. However, if we have data from both, it will combine the data together and present the sales to you on the heat map as one. You're not going to be able to distinguish necessarily which MLS it came from, but it will show you the combined data. So short answer is yes, it combines it. Longer answer is if we don't have enough data because two MLSs cover it, then we probably don't even cover that county. Hey, Paul, do you want to take this one real quick? Adjustment data comes from SS, CS, and N. Can you just have it come from CS or SS?
Yes. I mean, you can have it just come, so that gets a little bit complicated. So let me go into this is more of a pro tip. The way I recommend using the tool, you should never, you shouldn't you should very rarely define market area boundaries that I'm about to show you how to do. Because we have learned that the more data in this CS, the better results you're going to get for time adjustments and feature adjustments. That being said, if you say, I only want the data east of this highway and south of this highway, I want this pocket right here included in my analysis, you can limit this CS. You can say, you know what? I don't want these down here or over here. So I could hover over this, define market area boundaries, and I can draw a new boundary that maybe does this. And what that does is that 1,699 just went down to 388 because what it means is it's only going to consider properties inside these boundaries. Everything outside, it's ignoring it now. So when I go to time adjustments, feature adjustments, none of these properties will be included in the analysis, which typically we've seen the range of the adjustment gets wider because it has less certainty about what the truth is. So it's best to not do that, but you can if you want to. So you can really limit that. And the N is just the same right now as the SS. If I want to draw a neighborhood boundary, if I say this is a very specific neighborhood and I want to draw it, I click on the N, I draw that boundary, and it separates that out. So now my neighborhood is this gold, my SS is the black. So we give you flexibility to do it a bunch of different ways, but the based on our experience is it's best to analyze both SS and all of CS. Okay, question. I am new. When I finish, this is for Mary Jane. When I finish, I have no defaults for quality and condition comments. So what's going on there is if all of your subject and your comps are all the same quality and condition, we don't put those comments in your report because you probably didn't adjust, right? So I'll show you how to activate that. Well, number one is if you just make one of your quality or condition of your comps different than the subject, it will activate those comments. Once this loads, if we come down here to quality and condition, so you can see here, quality, I changed quality for one, so that adjustment is included. Condition is not included because all my conditions are the same. If I want to include it, I just click that little checkbox, and now that will go in when I export. And that goes for all this stuff. I recommend, by the way, if 0 is the support for your adjustment, bedroom is typically a good one for that. Type the 0 and choose the method that shows the 0 because that's support for 0. If you just toggle off garage, then you just don't have any mention of garage and you could get a revision saying, why didn't you adjust for garage? Whereas if you had support for 0, you show them the support. You say, here's why I didn't adjust for garage. John asks, it currently takes me 1 to 2 hours desk time to complete an assignment, sales comparison analysis. How much time will the software save me using this software? I don't know the right answer for that. We have someone internally that said it's saving them an hour. I actually have a message out to her asking her to elaborate on like which part of it is saving you the most time and all that. So we haven't really done timing on this yet. Um, I can tell you though, like if you've done a good job defining your market and you have a good heat map, when you go to pick your comps, it'll save you time also because you may, if you're dealing with a difficult property and you're searching for something with an ADU, if you don't have this heat map, you may find the perfect ADU comp right here. And then you go, okay, I'm going to throw it through Spark. I'm going to put it in my grid. I'm going to adjust it. And you go, ah, crap, this thing's adjusting 15% higher than all my other comps. Back to the MLS. Now I got to find another one. And so one of the ways this helps you save time is during comp selection, indicating, hey, where are the flags of if I got to go outside my main neighborhood, where should I be looking for those comps so that I don't spend the time bringing comps in, putting them in the grid, adjusting them only to realize like, ah, this isn't very good. So that's one of the ways it saves time. I can tell you from a market definition and market analysis, we did have times on this. So we can track average time in the tool when we released just these two tabs, and it was around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And that was based on thousands of sessions. So on average, people were defining their market and getting their time adjustments and all those charts in less than 5 minutes. Comp selection, like we talked about that a little bit. Grid cleanup, in my opinion, grid cleanup, if you're not using Spark or QuickSource or any of the other products out there to fill out your grid for you, you're wasting probably 20 minutes. So that saves you 20 minutes. Adjustments, when you get really good at adjustments, like you said, you're just clicking through, clicking on different methods and reconciling. That's a few minutes. So I guess the question would be, how long are you spending on adjustment support today? The hard part about answering that question is so many appraisers don't do anything today. They just have standard boilerplate commentary, GLA, $50 per paired sales. And so if you're spending 0 time today, this might take you an extra 5 minutes. But the difference is you have this awesome supported information you put into your report. You'll get less revisions. You ever end up in front of a state board, it's going to be really hard for them to argue with the level of support and analysis that you did. All right, we are at half hour over. Are we good to stop here, Julie? Where's Julie? Oh, Julie had to leave, I think.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we're good, Paul. Thank you.
Joel, anything else before we part ways?
Man, I think we're good. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
you guys coming on and teaching my customers about how this works. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.